Thanks, Phil. Today's guilty verdict will no doubt have city leaders breathing a sigh of relief. Mayor Lightfoot yesterday called for National Guard backup in anticipation of big George Floyd demonstrations. This as the city is already on edge over last week's video release of the Adam Toledo shooting. And joining us to discuss the verdict and all other city business are Alderman Chris Taliaferro of the city's West Side 29th Ward, Alderman Byron Sigcho Lopez of the 25th Ward on the West Side, Alderman Rosana Rodriguez-Sanchez of the 33rd Ward on the Northwest Side, and Alderman Brian Hopkins of the 2nd Ward on the city's North Side. First, I want to get everyone's reaction to this verdict. Guilty on all three counts here of murder and manslaughter for Derek Chauvin. Alderman Hopkins, your reaction.
Relief, as you said at the top of the segment, Paris, relief. We are not going to have to deal with the type of civil unrest that we were prepared to deal with had there been an acquittal or even a finding of guilt on 2 out of the 3 counts. I think the reaction still would have been the same. People are prepared to say the justice system worked, and I don't think we're going to see the kind of, outpouring of violence and rage that would have accompanied an acquittal.
Alderman Sigcho Lopez, is that the sentiment that the justice system has delivered in this case?
Well, it has delivered perhaps in this case, but one verdict cannot absolve or legitimize the whole system. As you know, we have many cases of police brutality, police misconduct. We have here the case of Adam Toledo. So we will continue to demand justice for all the cases, not only here in Chicago, for police accountability here and across the country.
Alderman Taliaferro, as a former police officer, your view of this verdict?
Well, I think, I expressed the same sentiment as my colleague, Alderman Hopkins. I am relieved, especially in light of the criticism, and I should say fair criticism, of our criminal justice system. And we're not all the way there yet. I mean, we do have a guilty verdict, but we have sentencing to look at. And we have to ensure that, I should say that the sentence fits the crime. And so I am relieved, not just for the city of Chicago, but for the Floyd family as well.
That's right. The sentencing in 8 weeks, I'm sure that'll be closely watched as well. Alderman Rosana Rodriguez-Sanchez, your take on today's verdict.
I think it was the right verdict. I think that we have a lot of work to do to transform our ideas of public safety. We know that we have the Dante Wright case that is going to be coming up. Here in Chicago, we have Adam Toledo. We have the case of Anthony Alvarez that we don't even know anything about yet because COPA hasn't released any information. So we have to overhaul our idea of public safety.
So speaking of public safety, at least acutely right now, Alderman Sigcho Lopez, the mayor asked the governor to call in the National Guard. Do you believe that's the right move?
Well, I think especially now with the announcement of the verdict, we see Mayor Lightfoot continue to avoiding the real issue in the city of Chicago, which is police accountability. The calls for the National Guard do not solve the structural issues that we have in the city of Chicago. We do need the mayor to focus on the local issues. We need the mayor to focus on the bill for empowering communities for public safety in the city of Chicago, as well as relief. No more police repression, no more fear, no more terror in our communities. What we need is relief and accountability of the police department, and we need it now.
Alderman Hopkins, everyone remembers the unrest that happened last summer. Parts of your ward were hit really bad. Obviously, the mayor and other officials wanted to head that off. Given the tension right now, are you confident that police have a plan to keep your area safe and all areas safe?
Compared to 2020, 100%. It is a dramatic difference in terms of our preparation, our resources, our tactical training, everything. We didn't have that in 2020, and the results were obvious to all with those 2 horrific incidents of looting and widespread criminal vandalism in May and in August. We were caught completely unprepared. That problem has been corrected. But when you say, am I confident that it won't happen again, that's another matter entirely. No one has a crystal ball. We don't know what the response will be. As Alderman Taliaferro mentioned, sentencing will be another issue. We have to prepare for that, and we are not done dealing with this yet. So we're trying to prepare as best we can. And the one lesson that we took away from the incidents in 2020 is that the best tactic is a preventive tactic. So that's why the National Guard is here. It serves as a disincentive to come downtown in large groups with the intent to commit acts of arson and looting. They're serving their purpose, and we think we will continue to deploy resources like that to try and dissuade people from engaging in that. First Amendment rights, absolutely. Protest and express your outrage, absolutely. Burn down a store, break a window, turn over a police car, no. Nothing justifies that. And we have, as a city, are obligated to try and prevent that activity from happening again, as it did on 2 dramatic occasions last year.
Alderman Taliaferro, I want to move over to the Adam Toledo case. Again, from your perspective, having been a police officer, and you saw that video release last week, that tragic video, what was your initial reaction to it?
Well, first let me say, Paris, that the Toledo family are still in my prayers, my continued thoughts and prayers. Just everyone, I believe, it was horrific to even view that. Whether you've seen it in person or on video, it is damaging emotionally to see the death of a young man or anyone. But to see them die in an alley on the street was very horrific, and it struck me. And words could not express how I felt after seeing it. And this is after having an extensive career as a police officer, where I've seen that happen time and time again. It just solidifies in me that no matter what your background may be, viewing a death is something that we shouldn't take lightly. And the loss of life is something that we shouldn't take lightly. So my prayers are out to the Toledo family for all that they're going through and all that they've been through and will go through continually.
Alderman Rodriguez-Sanchez, the CPD has made a case that that Toledo did have a gun on him, or what appeared to be a gun, and it was less than a second between what appears that he tosses the gun aside and then turns around and puts his hands up. Does that make this harder to prove that this is an unjustified police shooting here?
It was an execution. What we saw in that video was a child with his hands up. He was trying to comply with the orders that the police officer gave him. And to have seen how the city and the mayor spent 2 weeks making sure that people were absolutely confused about what was happening, that the character of that child was disparaged for 2 whole weeks, so that there was already a suspicion of culpability, and the engaging in so much victim blaming. It's been disgusting.
Alderman Hopkins, one of the things the mayor has said she wants to come out of this is a revision to the foot pursuit policy by the police. What do you think needs to change about that?
Well, we need to have one, for one thing. I actually just got a copy of ostensibly what passes for the current foot pursuit policy, and it doesn't really shed any light. It doesn't nearly go far enough to address the kinds of hazardous and dangerous situations that police officers face all the time, and making the decision whether or not to pursue an armed offender. There's so many variables that go into it. And now we've seen in very horrific and dramatic fashion the consequences of a lack of attention to tactical training and decision-making that police officers need to employ. Look, we could just pass a blanket ban and say, well, we're just not going to chase criminals. I don't think that's the right thing to do either. I know some of my colleagues might differ, but I think we still have a society where there are dangerous people who need to be brought to justice. Police officers have to do that. That's their job. And as long as we're asking them to do that job, we have to support them. And one of the ways we support them is with proper training that will ensure situations like this don't happen. And I do agree with my colleague who just mentioned that Adam Toledo was attempting to surrender that night. He absolutely was. I have no doubt in my mind, having watched that video repeatedly, he slowed down, he stopped running, and he turned. Where I would differ with her, though, it was absolutely not an execution. The police officer in that case had every reason to believe that there would be a gun in his hand as he raised his hand. He didn't know he was a 13-year-old, didn't know he was a middle schooler. He knew he had a gun, and as his arm came up in that less than a second, the police officer had no choice but to protect his own life so he could go home to his family and he had to do what a horrible thing that was, and he has to live with the consequences of that as well.
This is a very, very intense case. We're going to have to leave it right there for now, but we'll be joined again by the alderman later in the show to discuss Chicago's COVID vaccine rollout, among other things. For now, our thanks to you all for joining us. Thanks so much.